And like most people, you want to understand the nature of time. In your minutes and hours, you want to know why they feel particular ways. You want to understand why your mind is thinking about time that has already passed, and time that has yet to pass. You want to understand why time climbs into your mind this way. You would like to name this time, and sometimes the name appears. The name seems to sound like it is French in origin. One really good way to understand time is to visualize time. One really good way to visualize time is to visit the Glacier Park. And if you are lucky like me, your dream guide, friend, you are lucky to live inside the world of dreams. You are lucky enough to be a shepherd to a flock of glaciers. And you can have a very good understanding of time and glaciers. But before you join me and my flock of glaciers, you must first find your breath. And to find your breath, you must think like your breath. You must dress and act like your breath. Imagine the kinds of foods and music your breath likes to consume. Imagine these things, so that you may find your breath in places of food and music. But be careful not to become your own breath. It is easy to become something else. You may do this at any point in life. And with the ease of becoming something else, like your breath, none of us really considers the bargains we must make to become other things or places or people. Even when we choose to become a forest, or a basement, or a villain, or maybe a villain in a forest, or a villain in a basement, or a villain in any place, and maybe you will choose to become a villain with a dangerous assortment of pyrotechnics shooting off from your villain hands. And if we choose to, we can become the pyrotechnics shooting out from the villain's hands as well. And when our flame blood and spark blood rusts and darkens, it is cast off and twisted from the air to the floor. And through this we have become something we did not bargain for. This is always the case when we choose to become something different. And it is unpredictable, but still, we should consider the experience a bargain. So now, as you try to find your breath, by profiling your breath, make sure you do not become like so many serial killer profilers on television shows, who become like the serial killers they try to profile. Act like your breath, but do not become your breath. To do so would trap you inside of your own body. And no dream guide could ever retrieve you from such a predicament. But if you have located your breath, without becoming your breath, breathe it in, breathe it out, again, and again, until you fall asleep. And now, you are in a dream guide, with your dream guide, friend. This is the Glacier Dream. You begin, and you are a child here. You see a village sitting at the bottom of a hill. You are standing on top of a hill. The hill is covered in grass. You were taught not to touch the hill. Somewhere in your childhood, you do not remember who told you. You were told, once, by a voice of authority. No hands on the hills. Here they are for goats. Which means, you should not touch the hill and the grass on the hill, with your hands, because the hill belongs to goats. But you stand on the hill and wonder if feet are just as bad as hands to the goats. Though it has been proven false, that a mother bird will abandon their children, if human hands, or the scent of hand oils touch their young. But think of that untruth, that everyone knows is true, and apply it to these hills, If a goat smells the hands of a human on their hills, the goats will abandon the hills. And you may think to yourself, a hill doesn't need a goat to care for it. But you are wrong, and you have much to learn about hills. The hill is covered in grass. You were taught not to touch the hill. Sometime before now, back in another childhood. The grass is around you, above your waist. You hear it growing. All of the growing grass sounds like rushing water or waves. It could feel like an ocean. The grass. You hold your arms out to keep you afloat, even though you are standing upright. You fall on your back, into the grass, and keep your arms out, to remain afloat. Are you looking up? Are you watching? The half-deep weather above your ocean, above you. Your arms are simple, like good oars in an ocean. They are good arms, and now they are ours, waiting in water, for an oarless raft to float by. Sometimes in dreams you will find an empty raft. It will be empty in one way, but in another way, at the same time, the raft is not empty. Because finding an empty raft is an omen. So the raft will be operated by an ominous meaning. I do not need to tell you what it means to find an empty raft in a dream. It will be obvious to you when you find it. While your oars are outstretched and ready to be useful, a frog appears near your body. And when the frog appears, in the waking world, they are a deliverer of change and renewal. And when the frog appears, in the dream world, they are a deliverer of messages. Because in dreams frogs operate a complex, and massive, message delivery service, for all of the dream world. You pull 2 dragonflies from your inventory, and give them to the frog. 2 dragonflies are considered a good tip to a frog messenger. The frog hops away from the hill, and you open the letter to read it. And the letter starts with the word hello. And then the letter tells a story. And the story is about a child, who abandoned their village, to live within the grass. And within the grass, the child smokes a pipe. The pipe is invisible, but still the child smokes it. You need to be the child to see the pipe. The child continues on, living within the grass, taking naps, and smoking pipes only they can see. Until one day, the child takes a nap, and after waking from the nap, they find that someone has taken their only towel. Someone. Or the wind. The child decides. The child just knows, like there is an announcement about who took their towel. And on the towel was an announcement. An announcement only the child can read. But now the child feels very late, maybe 12 or 13 years late. The child feels around 20 years old now. The village is gone. The child is too late for the village. The child is unsure of their age before the grass. And then the letter stops telling the story, because the letter has ended. And you yourself feel like you have become very late. You feel older and rise from the grass. You feel like you yourself have lost a towel. Even though you never owned a towel before this moment. And this is exactly what it is like to lose an hour in your day. Because often hours abandon people, at the exact time when people want hours to live inside. There is no return address on the letter. You look at the stamp and postage mark and see by the commemorative stamp the letter originated from the Glacier Park. On the stamp, you see me. I wave to you, and you wave back. I tell you the glaciers on the stamp are waving as well, but it may take a while to see. I tell you that you have to trust me when I tell you about glaciers, because I am a glacier shepherd, in addition to my job as a dream guide, which is another kind of shepherd. I tell you, once you learn how to shepherd one kind of being on the earth, All other beings are just as easy to shepherd. It all depends on the language you use. And then I tell you, see how I have shepherded you. From a grassy hill, to the top of a glacier. All with the use of language. And you look around you, and see that yes, you are on top of a glacier, standing near me, your dream guide, friend. And you say, wow, just wow. And then you say, I knew the Glacier Dream would become a glacier dream. Because it started out like a hill, or grass dream, but I was not sure how. The Glacier Dream would become a glacier dream. And then I say, yes, honestly, I'm not sure how we got here either, but here we are. I open a hatch on the surface of the glacier, and show you a ladder descending down. You ask me, if the hatch is a scar from the glacier's birth. If the hatch is a belly button. I tell you, no, glaciers are not born in a way in which they can carry a reminder of birth throughout their lives. And then I tell you, that if glaciers were born with belly buttons, the belly button would be on the underside of the glacier, and would have worn away, millennia ago, from the force and friction of the glacier upon the surface of the earth. And then we climb down, beneath the surface of the glacier, through the hatch, and into the organs of the glacier. And though sunlight filters through the glacier's skin, the interior of the glacier is dim. Until your eyes adjust to notice the bioluminescent fungus, which have adapted to life within a glacier, and then the bioluminescent moths, which have adapted their attraction to bioluminescent fungus inside of glaciers. Once your eyes adjust, you see that you too have become bioluminescent, and your glow is muddy. To glow muddy in a dream means, you should spend more time outside of your house, or find a new place to live. Because the interior air that surrounds you has tainted your glow. For most people it is normal to glow sunny, or glow sky. If you find yourself glowing muddy, or even violent in a dream, try pulling your mattress outside one evening, and sleep on your mattress outside. If it is a raining evening, you may use a large plastic tarp to cover your mattress, to keep the mattress dry, to keep the mattress as a comfortable place to sleep, when you return your mattress to the inside of your home. We walk through the interior of the glacier, through the digestive system of the glacier, until you reach the kitchen and break room area, and I introduce you to the crew inside the glacier. They are on break and sharing jokes with each other, and in the kitchen area, there are workers, talking about how to die a true death. Because one is the father of a son that constantly speaks of the matter, something he learned in college. The son had started out as an accounting major, but is now a talking major, and the majority of the son's talking is about death, and the deaths of others. A bell rings and the workers rise to leave the kitchen and break area. I tell you how the workers do not operate the glacier, but the workers help maintain the glacier. And I tell you, that before we got into the glacier business, glaciers ran wild over the earth, and filled themselves with forests, and mountain ranges, and lakes. Glaciers were all over and still not growing to their full potential. When a glacier has half of a mountain stuck inside of them, a glacier cannot move at full speed, and instead becomes confused about its true purpose. Think of yourself and how in life you are a glacier, and how sometimes ideas get stuck inside of you, because you run wild over the earth, without the shepherd or workers inside you, to keep you from swallowing mountainous ideas, like you are ugly or unlovable. We follow the workers through tunnels and tubes, and they crouch down into their work holes, to turn on headlamps and pull out ice picks. The workers dig into the glacier, One of the workers holds something out to you and says, "I think this one is for you." He hands you a messenger frog in a rabbit fur coat. The frog is frozen and pale. All of the frog color has drained from the little frog body. And I tell you, most of what gets stuck in glaciers here are messenger frogs. Because while the frogs try to bundle up and wear fur coats, they tend to freeze and get stuck inside of glaciers. So the workers must dig them out of the glacier, and deliver the frog messages for the frogs while they are frozen. Most of the messages are to the workers, because the workers live far from their families, and like to receive letters. So they do not become like glaciers, and let large ideas like loneliness and despair stick inside of them. And messenger frogs are so honorable, that even though they know, they will more than likely not survive the trip to the Glacier Park, without being frozen, still bundle up in fur coats and deliver the messages. And you look to the walls of the glacier and see thousands of messenger frogs stuck inside of the glacier. And you look at the messenger frog in your hand and open up the frog's backpack. You find a letter addressed to you within the backpack. And the letter is full of questions. The letter asks, which waiting shape are you? What about when you breathe in and out? How does time feel then? Is there a skeleton in you? How would you be a body without a skeleton? If you could invent a better skeleton, which color would it be? What color is the interior of your car? Can I be a passenger inside your car? What is one secret the interior of your car would tell me? What is one secret the interior of you would tell me? Will you let me ask your interior a question? Will you let me fall into your interior? Can I be a passenger inside of you? Will you let me escape? And then the letter ends, and you feel unsure of who sent the letter. Often in dreams, when we receive a letter, the letter is written by ourselves before we fall asleep. During the waking part of the day, when we are alone and our mind wanders about the world and our place within it. That is the thing about days. There are so many minutes, in which we do not pay attention to minutes. And those minutes have their own intentions, which becomes apparent after their passing, during our own moments of reflection. Once I wrote a letter to my past self. It contained the one joke I know, and my past self never replied. Maybe something blocked the door, and the other exits, and the emergency escapes, and the emergency escape. And my past self couldn't reach the mailbox. Some days, I dream up an apartment with counters and shelves, and my past self sits on the counters, and their many replies sit on the shelves, and all my past self asks me about, in their replies, is how the weather of the future feels and tastes. We reach the basement of the glacier, which is open enough for both of us to stand without hunching. You notice the glacier here is not made of ice, but is instead constructed from empty water bottles. I tell you, that once Glacier Park was without glaciers. It was just a grass park, with grass hills. And the only inhabitants of the grass park, was a small tribe of goats, who tended and cared for the hills. And if you think a hill doesn't need a goat to care for it, then you are thinking wrong, and you still have much to learn about hills. I tell you, once the world was warming, lakes ran dry, and the grass on hills burned. The only water anyone could ever drink came from plastic bottles, and everyone drank water from plastic bottles, and did not recycle their plastic. I tell you, once someone remembered the world needed 2 places of great coldness, 2 bright white caps for the world, to reflect the sunlight and warmth. And then, that someone had an idea to knit the water bottles together and make a great blanket to reflect back the sun's light. I tell you, once this whole area was hills, where grass once grew, and once it was covered with empty water bottles, which grew cold and covered with ice, and that is how the glaciers returned. I tell you, once the glaciers grew so large, they tried to travel across the ocean, to other hills where grass once grew, so we needed to herd them, and keep them moving in a circle, and now their movements are regular, and predictable, and now the glaciers have become a great clock. And then I show you a map of the Glacier Park, and the glaciers on the map move, and when you look up from the map, you see we are standing on top of a glacier. You look down through the ice, and see workers, digging in the glow of bioluminescent fungus and moths, to rescue fur-covered, and frozen, messenger frogs from the ice. And you tell me, I thought I might understand the nature of time, how my minutes and hours feel particular ways, by spending time with glaciers. That I might learn why, when my mind thinks about something that has already passed, or a time that has yet to pass, how those moments climb into my mind, and it makes me feel uncomfortable ways. And I tell you, that I have shown you all I can show you about glaciers, and that you should think about glaciers, instead of yourself and time, whenever time climbs into you. And then I tell you, think about how you climbed into a glacier during this dream. Did the glacier notice your presence? Did the glacier continue to glacier? To be the best glacier they could possibly be. And then, on the horizon of the Glacier Park, a flame appears. The annual fire announcement has arrived, and almost everyone is happy. It has been a whole year since the last fire, which is reasonable. Fire could send the wrong message to the glaciers, who sometimes have troubles of confidence, and begin melting. Some of the glacier shepherds avoid the annual fire, because they don't want to remember warmth, because they fear the flame would keep them from fully understanding glaciers. But I guide our glacier and the other glaciers in my flock to the flame, and when we are near the annual fire announcement, we walk to the edge of a glacier, which is on the edge of the ocean. I show you how all of the glacier workers have emerged from their glaciers, and carry sacks and crates full of messenger frogs, to stack near the annual fire announcement. The sight of the announcement reminds you how much you have missed warmth, and you walk to the fire, and sit beside the flame. And then you realize the glacier workers are digging into the glacier, and separate the ice where you and the frogs and the flame sit, until you all fall away from the glacier and into the ocean. So you sit on an iceberg, floating away from Glacier Park and back to land, where you and the messenger frogs can thaw out, and go about your lives. And I wave to you, and the glaciers wave to you, until we are so far away, it looks like we could fit on a stamp, and then until we are farther away, and it looks like we could fit on a grain of rice. You float away on the iceberg, then you hear frogs croaking and chirping, then you hear frogs splashing, as they jump from the iceberg, and into the ocean, to deliver more messages, and then you put your hands in your pocket, and feel a letter there, inside of your pocket, and once you know exactly who the letter must be delivered to, you jump into the ocean. And now you are awake, and ready for another day. This has been the Glacier Dream, with your dream guide, friend. Dream guides are written and recorded by Chad Redden.